The fall from divinity. Once, there was a woman named Julia, who was born with a divine light within her. She was not just any ordinary soul, she was a beacon of spiritual energy, a being of higher purpose. Her aura shimmered with the essence of the divine, and her presence could calm storms and heal broken hearts. She was destined for greatness, to walk alongside a divine counterpart, a masculine energy who was her equal in every way. Together, they were meant to create a balance, a harmony that would ripple through the cosmos. But Julia was impatient. She lived her life in devil energy. Karmic was curious, restless, and hungry for experiences that her divine path did not immediately offer. She was drawn to the allure of. She surrounded herself with the wrong people, wrong direction, and no purpose. She simply lived the moment, chased lust, material gain, as she knew no better than the material world, to the fleeting pleasures of the flesh, and to the chaos of karmic relationships. She began to chase after partners who were not aligned with her divine purpose, men who were broken. In her pursuit of these karmic partners, Julia betrayed her divine counterpart. He was a steady, unwavering force, a king of cups who embodied emotional depth and spiritual wisdom. He had waited for her, believing in their shared destiny. But Julia grew bored with his constancy. She craved the drama, the highs and lows of relationships that were rooted in lust rather than love. She abandoned him, leaving him in the shadows as she chased after men who could never truly fulfill her. The washing machine vision. One night, as Julia slept, she was visited by a vision. She found herself standing in front of a washing machine, its lid wide open, spinning uncontrollably. The machine was stuck on a cycle labeled cancel, but it wouldn't stop. The sound was deafening, a relentless whirring that echoed the chaos in her life. She tried to press the button to stop it, but it wouldn't respond. Frustrated, she unplugged the machine, but even then, it kept spinning for a few moments before finally coming to a halt. When she woke, she felt a deep sense of unease. The vision lingered in her mind, a metaphor for the repetitive cycles she had been trapped in. She realized that her life had become a series of toxic patterns, relationships that drained her, choices that led her further away from her true self, and a constant chase for validation from people who could never give her what she needed. The divine counterpart's pain. Meanwhile, her divine counterpart, a man named Mike, watched from afar. He had loved Julia with a purity that transcended time and space. He had seen her potential, her divinity, and had waited patiently for her to awaken to her true purpose. But her betrayal cut him deeply. She had chosen fleeting lust over their sacred connection, and it left him in a state of emotional turmoil. Mike was a king of pentacles, grounded and steadfast, but even he had his limits. He had tried to guide Julia back to her path, but she had resisted, choosing instead to indulge in the chaos of her karmic relationships. Now, he was left to pick up the pieces of his broken heart, wondering if she would ever return to the light, not for him, as she failed the divine test, rather for her and for her own daughter and potential. The awakening. Julia's vision of the washing machine was a wake-up call. She realized that she had been spinning in circles, stuck in a cycle of self-sabotage and emotional turmoil. The machine's refusal to stop, even after being unplugged, symbolized the lingering effects of her choices. She had to take drastic action to break free. She began to reflect on her life, on the men she had chased, and the divine partner she had abandoned. She saw how her choices had not only hurt her, but also those around her. The men she had been with were not evil. They were lost just as she had been, but by indulging in their chaos, she had only deepened their wounds and her own. The cancellation of cycles. Julia made a decision. She would cancel the cycles that had kept her trapped. She cut ties with the toxic relationships in her life. Even though it was painful, she stopped chasing after men who could never give her the love she deserved. She unplugged herself from the patterns that had drained her energy and left her feeling empty. As she did this, she felt a shift in her spirit. The divine light within her, which had dimmed over the years, began to flicker back to life. She realized that her true purpose was not to chase after fleeting pleasures, but to embrace her divinity and fulfill her spiritual mission. She came to a late understanding that those karmics were abusing her own energy and depleting her, but her ego showed her otherwise. Her sexual identity crisis was also a reaction of spells and black magic done on her to keep her trapped in the same sex relationship she had with one nasty best friend who never wanted her to see. her own potential and chase her destiny and dream. As her friend never wanted to move off this trap for her own reasons, she suddenly realized that her greed and ego forced her to marry someone and accept to be in an open relation as a side piece for what? Money. While he clouded her mind, intuition, crown chakra, lust spells, binding her to past traumas and sexual pursuits built on codependencies and love spells and beauty spells. As the truth came out and the veil was lifted, she understood that she was surrounded by demonic entities all along. Families, friends who wanted to harm her and use and abuse her. She started blaming herself for accepting to be surrounded by a younger lover and a same-sex lover who both contributed to doing black magic on her while boosting her ego in parallel. The divine counterpart's regret. Mike, too, felt the shift. He had been watching Julia from a distance, hoping she would find her way back to him. But as she began to cancel her cycles and step into her power, he realized that he had played a role in their separation. He had been too passive, too patient, allowing her to wander without stepping in to guide her more firmly. Now, he was filled with regret. He saw how his own fear of losing her had kept him from asserting himself, from showing her the depth of his love. He wanted to reach out, to tell her that he still believed in their connection, but he knew it was too late. Julia was on a new path, one that no longer included him, the abundant harvest. As Julia continued to cancel her cycles and embrace her divine mission, she began to attract abundance into her life. She found fulfillment in helping others, in using her spiritual gifts to heal and uplift those around her. She no longer needed the validation of toxic relationships. She was complete on her own. Mike, meanwhile, spiraled into a state of emotional and financial turmoil. The loss of Julia's energy left him unbalanced, and he struggled to find his footing. He realized too late that she had been his anchor, his source of stability and light. Without her, he was lost. The lesson. Julia's journey was a lesson in the consequences of betraying one's divine purpose. By chasing after karmic partners and fleeting lust, she had lost her divinity and hurt those who truly loved her. But through her awakening, she found redemption. She canceled the cycles that had kept her trapped and stepped into her true power. Mike, too, learned a lesson. His passivity and fear had cost him the love of his life. He realized that love requires action, that it is not enough to simply wait and hope. He vowed to heal himself, to become the man he was meant to be, even if it meant doing so without Julia by his side. In the end, both Julia and Mike found their paths, though they were no longer together. Their story was a reminder that the choices we make have consequences, and that true fulfillment comes from embracing our divine purpose, not from chasing after fleeting pleasures, dirty and disgusting lustful pursuits and extreme attachments to the material world and greed for more, when all she had to do is stop and listen to her inner self and respect her body and soul purpose.